Alright guys, so one of you have asked me about my bike and if I'm still happy about it after about 8,500 kilometers. So I just want to tell you about the first things that gave up on this bike and pretty much that were not really good. First part are the brakes, like these B-Twin Tactro brakes. I think they're real shit. I went to Specialized store and they checked them and they said they're really bad and you'd better install other ones, but they kind of tried to make them work and they did actually. So now they work not bad, you know. I noticed you can use those brakes if it's dry. You can pretty much descend really fast, and maybe also if you're not a very heavy rider, you know. But once it rains, they're just terrible, impossible to brake. Brakes didn't give up yet, but just want to make it clear that they are not good brakes. So if you buy this bike, brakes are shit, especially if you're riding in rain. For sunny weather like this is amazing, no problem at all. I just find them even really good. I can stop myself pretty fast, especially using front brakes, because they kind of give you more power. The standard bottom bracket, it lasted maybe 6,000 kilometers. Then I installed another one, Shimano. I ordered online and it gave up after 2 weeks, which is probably, it was broken already, so it was probably the shitty one. And this one they installed yesterday. It's the cheap bottom bracket, about $15. And I asked them what's the difference between the expensive one and the cheap one, and they said difference in life, in the life of the bottom bracket is the same. It's just about the smoothness of how it works. So I said no worries, just install the same that was installed previously. I think it's the cheapest bottom bracket on Sora. So now it seems to be working fine. If I can squeeze 6,000 kilometers for $15, I don't care, it's fine for me. Then this wheel, as you can see here, I changed the wheel, and the funny thing that the hub gave up about 5,000 kilometers into this bike, into riding it, and the guys from the store said you should buy another bottom bracket, and we will put the spokes on it. So I got the bottom bracket for 80 RMB, which is like $12, and then they said the work will cost another $10, so it's like $20. But then they came up with the idea that I can actually buy the new wheel from them. It's lighter alloy wheel, it looks the same as the front one, but it's actually new, and it cost me 200 RMB, which is like $20, well, maybe a little bit more, like $30, So the lesson I learned was cheap alloy wheels. Just don't buy the hub. It's a hassle for the mechanic, to install the spokes and stuff. If they have cheap wheels, you can pretty much use them. And these wheels, especially this rear wheel, is lighter than that front wheel. So I really noticed the difference once started climbing, So this one it has Shimano hub, and I believe it rolls even more smooth than the previous wheel, which is cool. I believe $30 for the wheel is the bargain. So definitely I will invest in the good pair of wheels in the future, though, in the light ones. Then, so we covered brakes are not that good. I'm not really happy with them if you ride in the rain, and especially on the mountains. In the mountains, it can be actually very dangerous potentially. I almost had to stop, to wait for the road surface to dry out, because it was really nasty. So the brakes are total shit, and I will be changing them with Shimano 105 also a bit later. Then bottom bracket gave up, but it's not a problem, cheap. And wheel also cheap. You can pretty much, my tip, if you have a stuffed BB, just ask your shop if they have another pair of wheels or one wheel. It will be even cheaper than the hub and work itself. So you can probably get the lighter wheel for cheap money. For pretty much $30 for a wheel, it's very cheap, I reckon. And yeah, so I think other than that, the bike performs well. Oh yeah, also I had the problem with cable. The cable on the rear gear, it actually snapped out here inside, inside of the hood. So I had to go to this. Well, I actually was stuck in the gear, definitely, and then I had to go to the shop and they changed the cables. So I actually think I have to change all the cables. So I will be doing that probably next week, because 8,500 kilometers on it already. All the cables should be changed because it's important maintenance. And the difference was day and night. Compare once they installed the new gear cable for the rear gears, the switching was just perfect. But other than that, I would really recommend this bike. The guys were asking me why have I chosen the cheap one, and what are the purposes. But after I started riding, I actually was riding MTB without clipless pedals, and I knew that I'm gonna be crashing a few times at least. So I didn't want to buy the carbon bike or even the top end aluminum bike. What's the point? If you're just starting, if you're a noob, just be honest with yourself. You don't need a top end bike, because you will probably crash. And as you can see here, my shifters can tell you what would the expensive bike go through. So I don't think it's needed. First year or even 2 years, depending on how much you ride, you can put all the miles in with all these cheap components. I'm so happy that I did chose the bike with cheap parts, because even though they're not that durable, I am learning, so once I stuffed my bottom bracket because I was not caring that much about it, or my hubs and other parts, of the bike, lesson learned, so next time I won't do that. And the last but not least, I want to mention that all these parts that gave up, especially hub and the bottom bracket, hub of the wheel, it's all about maintenance. It's not because the hub was shit, but probably it was, but I could definitely squeeze more life of that and out of bottom bracket as well if I would be caring more about my bike, because I was pretty much riding in rain and not using any grease, and definitely if you ride in rain and there is water, and you keep riding, the parts going rusty, and they can break easily, much more easily. So it doesn't really matter if you have cheap or expensive parts. If you don't care about your bike will give up, all the parts, if they're even expensive. Definitely I will recommend this bike to anyone, to any beginner. I do recommend this bike to anyone who wants to start. This bike is great for learning. This bike is handling well. I didn't have any problems. I didn't even lube and grease my headset and didn't have any problems. That's what I'm gonna be doing, I think, either today at night or tomorrow morning once I clean my bike, because it definitely needs care. It definitely needs some maintenance. So this is the most important thing I learned after pretty much destroying some of the parts of my bike, is that any part, no doubt, like no matter how cheap it is, needs maintenance. Definitely if you have a lot of money, you can continue destroying it, but it also affects your joy of riding. So definitely take care of your bike, and it will work wonders for you. And even Shimano Sora are great right now. So don't worry, get this bike and put the miles in. Thank you for watching.